and also our higher education reform experts. And I will be sharing his presentation in a minute. Mihailo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Svetlana. Maybe it'll be easier if I actually do the sharing, if that's all right with you. I'm actually going to do that right now. Hopefully you can see my screen, just to verify that you can.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Question, is it gone to full screen at the moment?
Not yet.
No, okay, so the full screen does not work. Let me just, there is a way of doing this. Hang on a second. I'll try that one more time.
If you take actually the PDF format, it would be easier.
But then there's a problem with the PDF format.
Okay. Use whatever you like.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not going to be working the way I want it to work. Okay, that's fine. I'll go with this way. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. I will have a few words to say that will be probably most relevant to our non-Ukrainian partners, because I expect that most of the participants that are from Ukraine, first of all, will know me. Secondly, will know about most of the initiatives that I will be talking about today. But nevertheless, I think it's important for us to perhaps expand some of the information on where we are and what we're doing. The reforming of the Ukraine's higher education system during war, I like to say it's like transforming a Spitfire, which is a Second World War airplane, into an F-16 while in flight and under heavy fire. So we have certain challenges. We are trying to reformulate our system, transform the system from something that is perhaps a little bit, I'm not going to say outdated, because I think that one of the things that we are very proud of, in fact, or should be very proud of, are the results of our education system. Because when we talk about resilience in Ukraine, it needs to be explained. And the only explanation that we very often have is the Ukrainian population has received a relatively high quality education. That may sound strange to our Ukrainian listeners, who like to, we generally like to say that our system is somehow non-competitive or under-competitive, etc. In fact, it has certain very high quality aspects to it, and we are very proud of them. Nevertheless, harmonization with the European space is something that is important, and that means transformation, and that means making it even better than what it is today. That is being done in a context of full-scale war. So the picture in the center that you see here is actually the former economics faculty of Karazin University in Kharkiv. It's very often considered to be symbolic of much of the destruction that unfortunately Ukraine has experienced over the last 3 years. To many in the West, I know I was in Strasbourg a couple of weeks ago, excuse me, and one gets the impression that the war is very far away and is not necessarily in the news. Of course, things that happen in the Oval Office are in the news. Things that have to do with political visits and searching for a just peace are obviously in the news. But I point out that the war continues. Just in February of 2025, we had 3,903 kamikaze drones fired upon Ukraine. That's over 100 per day. And those of us in the audience that today are in Ukraine can confirm that we have nightly air raid sirens every night. And these are becoming rather normal, and war is becoming, unfortunately, normalized within Ukraine. The picture that you see on the in the bottom right is the Children's Hospital here in Kyiv. It's approximately 300 meters from the Ministry of Education. When the missile hit, it was quite loud. And obviously, most of the people from the Ministry of Education were involved in the cleanup operations and in the immediate help that was provided on that day. Between 2022 and 2024, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get January and February figures, but what we had over the almost 3-year period, we have 11,466 missiles launched at Ukraine. 83% of those have been intercepted. So obviously air defenses are something that is very key, and we are talking about that a great deal. Why do I mention these things? Because this is context, as obviously is very important for us when it comes to what we are doing in Ukraine in terms of education. And here I'd like to point out that the educational map, if you like, of Ukraine is very varied. So the red dots will show you some educational centers in the eastern portions of the country, particularly Kharkiv, particularly Sumy, particularly Zaporizhia and Mykolaiv, and these are centers that are very close to the front line. And obviously, universities in those cities are under constant threat of. In matter of fact, it's not just drones and missiles. This will be in many cases close enough for artillery. So these are places where obviously the time for having to descend to a bomb shelter, for example, is very limited, which means that education is generally online in those areas or in underground facilities. In the blue areas, this is where it's a little bit I would say, in the middle portion. That includes Kyiv, that includes Dnipro. It obviously includes places like Cherkasy, Odessa, Uman. These are, and as a matter of fact, Chernihiv as well, these are places where generally the educational experiences have been brought back into the classroom. However, we have constant risks of air raid sirens, etc. So evacuations are quite common. And in many of those areas, we have seen extended periods of winter vacations because of the fact that there are issues with energy supply. Thankfully, we've had a relatively mild winter, but nevertheless, many of the universities in those regions have decided to extend their winter holidays. In the green areas, those are areas that are much less affected by the front. I'm not saying that anything in Ukraine is not affected. Of course, universities throughout the country are affected, but the effect is much less. And in most cases there, we've seen universities returning to in-class teaching rather than trying to do either a mixed format or an online format. So as you can see, basically it's territorially almost half of the country, but in reality, when it comes to student population, it is in fact probably about 40% of our student population is located in those western regions that include Lviv, Ternopil, Ivano-Frankivsk, Chernivtsi, Uzhhorod, Rivne, Lutsk, and all the way east to Uzhhorod, Vinnytsia, and Khmelnytsky. We are very grateful for what was done in terms of early and rapid relief efforts by our international partners in 2022 and 24. You can see some of those initiatives here: university twinning, which included EU twinning, UK twinning, US twinning. Twinning turned out to be something very, very important for us. University networks that included Erasmus, international credit mobility, various types of joint research projects. We've seen Ukrainian studies centers being formed throughout Europe, the European Union. Increased interest, obviously, in Ukraine, and the ability to engage with scholars at risk that are at the moment in various European countries. We very much appreciate the fact that the Russian higher education institutions and QA agencies and Russia itself has been removed from all EU organizations. We believe that that is correct because the Russian education system has obviously failed in terms of its mission. And visiting professorships and limited non-residential fellowships are things that we've seen very actively promoted. We have some challenges, and those challenges are distorted learning, risk to coherence of academic communities. It's obviously the exodus of students and exodus of many staff has led to the fact that we have a compounded effect. COVID basically went nicely into, just transferred nicely into an evacuation that was a result of the full-scale invasion. And that has created a risk of brain drain. So as I perhaps a little bit, this is not a popular statement, but I do make it regularly in many of my international appearances and speeches. My dear friends in Europe, we are grateful for everything that has been done, but please realize that we need our brains at home. We have a country to build and a war to fight. So obviously, sanctuary is appreciated for those that need sanctuary, but in many cases, we are looking to have people return because the situation in Ukraine has stabilized, particularly in the western regions. Looking into the medium and long term, we are very much interested in promoting and continuing to promote joint degree programs. This has got to do with, again, countering the risk of brain drain, and targeted funding is very much appreciated for these things. Again, the twinning programs, the various Erasmus networks are extremely important for developing into the medium term those types of partnerships between universities. Joint research and human capital development has to do with infrastructure and capacity, particularly important in the central and eastern regions that have been affected by missile attacks, drone attacks, and continue to be in distress. Non-resident fellowships. I stress the fact that non-resident is extremely important. We need our brains at home. And institutional level development, again, expanded twinning, merger guidance. I'll be speaking a little bit about mergers, and access to international networks and various types of models are very important. Just to give you a little bit of a background on things that are of where Ukraine has been coming in the last 10 years in terms of educational reform and transformation. Largely, things started in 2014, immediately after the completion of the Revolution of Dignity and the Maidan process. One of the first things that happened was a new law on higher education, which was largely a completion of the Bologna implementation of 3 cycles, producing a semblance of university autonomy, which is academic but not yet financial, and a new quality assurance system. And I'm proud to have been part of something called the creation of something called the National Quality Assurance Agency, National Agency for Higher Education Quality Assurance, NACA, which at the moment is being prepared for entry into ANCA. We have a large number of accreditation experts trained, and I know that many of the people that are in the audience today are in fact accreditation experts as well. 2015, a boost to the National Science Council, participation in Horizon 2020. In 2017, law on education, which instituted a 12-year school trajectory and competence-based programming. That has been, many of those things have actually been very well received by our European partners. As you may know, we are very quickly moving towards full-scale membership into the European Union. We are a candidate at the moment. And when it comes to Chapter 26, things have been quite well received. We will be continuing negotiations on Chapter 26 very shortly. From last year's report, we had very specific recommendations that had to do with statistical data collection, implementing a plan to optimize the network of education institutions, and adopting a legislation to modernize and regulate professional education. Much of that is ongoing, if not already completed. So priority reform areas for us at the moment is completion of some of these work in progress. We are moving towards more financial autonomy and improving institutional governance. We've had some initiatives in the last 2 years, and they have involved educational trajectory, shifting from yearly accounting of educational progress into credit accounting, regulated professions, secondary school completion testing. We were disrupted in 2022, experimented in 2023, and in 2024 returned to a system of 3+1, three subjects that are obligatory and one that is an elective. Expanding cooperative education programs, which involve study and work for credit, particularly emphasizing STEM and computer science. Transforming of funding mechanisms, which is something that we will be seeing a lot of parliamentary debate upon in the next month or so. And moving towards an autonomy experiment. And I was asked to say a few words about mergers and modernization of the network. I think I'm probably going over time, so I apologize. Last couple of slides. The news is unfortunately not very optimistic. When we look at demographics in Ukraine, this is a graph of school leavers. And what we see is school leavers 15 years ago, numbers of school leavers 15 years ago, and numbers of school leavers moving forward. The green graph is what we see today. The optimistic graph on the top is basically says, if we return all of the occupied territories, and if all people that have all children that have left Ukraine over the last 2 years return, then we will be returning to an optimistic scenario. But what you see is unfortunately a more realistic scenario, and that is an extreme drop in the number of possible university entrants. As a result of that, we need to be optimizing and modernizing our network. At the moment, we have approximately 120 state institutions that are under the Ministry of Education, an additional 15 under the Ministry of Health, 13 under Ministry of Culture, and you see the graphs here. The system itself is just over 1 million students, of which 100,000 are in private institutions, sorry about that. 100,000 are in private institutions and another 22,000 are in what we call local government or communal institutions. That turns into an average number of students per university of 5,700. And if we compare that to the EU average, we see that the EU average is approximately 10,000. Which means that we have a ways to go in terms of our network. We have a very large number of small institutions and very few large institutions. And we are moving towards mergers, and consolidation is one of our priorities at the moment. But that is not the only priority. Network modernization is something that is important. Our target is to move to approximately 100 non-military higher education institutions. And we need to incentivize reputation management, prioritize capital investments, and we have an instrument that we're using actively at the moment, which is a World Bank program, which allows us for $1.5 million into research infrastructure for each merged institution. And that is something that has been quite attractive and is being implemented at the moment. In addition to that, we're seeing student agency as something that is very much a priority. Interdisciplinary programming, liberal arts, cooperative programs, as I've mentioned. We've harmonized our specialties with the international codes of UNESCO, which was one of the recommendations last year of the European Commission to harmonize statistics. We've introduced grants in addition to the state order system of financing. And we are moving towards much more digitalization and centralized rather than standardized testing, revamping teacher training systems, entry of our National Agency for Higher Education Quality Assurance into ENCA, and expanding, or if you like, harmonizing with the European system of national qualifications. Academic community development. Many in our community in the audience here will know of our announced and program that will be beginning in a month or so for university leaders and incentivizing research, balancing that with teaching. But the most important thing is war relief. And quite frankly, all of these strategic priorities that you see here create a scenario where we have an awful lot to do simultaneously. But in the background, and sometimes very much in the foreground, is war relief. And I will complete my presentation with the final slide, which it brings into focus perhaps the most important things that we have to do. And that is that we have a war to win and a culture to build. And we ask for some help from our European friends, particularly to survive the turbulence of 2025, so that we can do both. And that is win a war and build a prosperous country for our youth. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm happy to take some questions if there are any.
Thank you very much indeed, dear Mikhailo, for the presentation. And you are absolutely on time. And if you stay just another 15 minutes, we will take some questions after the presentation of our colleagues from the Ministry of Youth and Sport. Or will it be possible? Great, great. Thanks a lot. So now we go to and invite Victoria Ryasna, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Youth and Sport of Ukraine, to highlight on the key priorities in the youth and sport. Since today we have the beneficiaries on education, training, and youth and sport. So Victoria, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you for giving the floor. And dear participants, dear guests, dear partners, on behalf of the Ministry of Youth and Sports of Ukraine, I would like to welcome you to this important event dedicated to the peculiarities of the implementation EU Erasmus Plus project under martial law in Ukraine. I'm grateful to everyone who has joined us today to discuss the challenges and opportunities that Erasmus Plus opens up for Ukrainian youth organization, and the sports community. Today, together, we are forming the future in which Ukrainian youth have access to the quality education opportunity for international cooperation and personal development. The Erasmus Plus program is not only a financial support, but also a tool for European integration, that facilitated the exchange of experience, the search for new partners, and the establishment of sustainable cooperation of Ukraine and European countries. I would like to highlight the progress in the expanded opportunities for Ukraine within the framework of Erasmus+, which brings positive results in strengthening the capacity of Ukrainian civil society organizations and smooth integration of Ukraine into the program as an associated country. 9 Ukrainian organizations became coordinators of new projects within the framework of new open calls for capacity building in the field of youth and sports. In addition, thanks to joint promotional campaigns organized by the European Commission, the Ministry of Youth and Sport, and the National Erasmus Plus Office, Ukrainian Youth and Sports Organization have actively joined more than 16 projects and participated in more than 1,000 youth mobility projects. The Ministry of Youth and Sport of Ukraine has identified the key national priorities for 2025, which are important points of reference for all who work in the youth and sports sectors, and which should be taken into account with the engaging the ministry as a partner to the implementation of projects. In particular, there are consolidation of the society around the struggle for an independent, sovereign, and unbreakable Ukraine through the formation of patriotic consciousness, civil resilience, and social activity of young people. Strengthening of Ukrainian national and civil identity, including support for the state language, national values, defense consciousness, and integration of youth people living in the temporary occupied territories. Establishing conditions for the reintegration, adaptation, and socialization of young people, which includes providing access to youth centers, developing support programs, and training specialists working with the young people. Building a physically healthy and active nation by engaging different groups of people in sports, including people with disabilities, war veterans, and their families, and improving the quality and accessibility of sports services. Developing high-level sports and Ukraine's international image, including restoring sports facilities, supporting national teams, and increasing sanctions pressure on Russian and Belarusian sports. Restoration and modernization of youth and sports infrastructure, establishing of modern spaces for youth development and reconstruction of destroyed facilities. Digital transformation of youth policy, physical culture, and sports, which will facilitate the introduction of electronic tools for youth participation in decision-making and the development of online education. In the current environment, we pay special attention to security, financial stability, and adaptation of projects' implementation procedures. It is important that Erasmus Plus remain an open platform for Ukrainian youth, even in the most difficult times. And I'm grateful to the European Commission, to the National Erasmus Plus Office in Ukraine, and all partners for their support and facilitation of the development of the youth and sports sectors in our country. I hope that today's webinar will be a useful platform for exchanging knowledges and finding new opportunities and solutions. I wish all participants in fruitful discussion, interesting insights, and new opportunity for cooperation. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, dear Victoria. And thus we have some minutes for the questions to the deputy ministers. Please, we refer to our international partners to encourage you and ask questions, if any. So please just raise your hand. We will take like 2 or 3 questions. Of course, Ukrainian partners can do it every day, but if you're also particularly interested in some specific questions referring by our speakers, you're also welcome. Okay, no volunteers at the moment. No questions. So just maybe I have very small questions to Victoria. If you focus, for example, of the area where you consider that the current projects could be the most impactful, what would you highlight as the key one among the list you provided?
Sorry. As I mentioned during my speech, we will focus on our priorities. As I mentioned, they are a consolidation of the society around the struggle for independence and so on. And we will focus on and they will cooperate with this organization who will firstly focus on this ways that I mentioned before.
Thank you very much, Victoria. So we encourage also the projects who are implementing the priorities communicated by Victoria and also others relevant to the youth and sports sector development to also communicate to the ministry on in terms of the sharing the experience and expertise with them on what you've done, and they would also help to further promote your project activities. Thanks a lot, so Victoria. And Mihailo, are you still with us? Yes, I see you. And the question for you, what would you recommend as the experienced already Tempus and Erasmus Plus community, how to call it? Okay, Erasmusaholics, let's call it. Just a few tips on how to implement successfully projects during martial law. What are your key tips?
Communication, that's first tip. Communication, that's second tip. Communication, that's third tip. One of the problems that we have most often when it comes to implementing projects has to do with insufficient communication between the partners. And I think that this is probably one of the things that we learn the most of from when it comes to capacity building projects in particular, because we are accustomed to the fact that, well, first of all, there's a huge risk when you are investing into the writing of a project. We understand that there's a very low success rate. So, of course, you are investing a great deal of time and it becomes your own project. And the people that are writing it, the people that are actually putting it together are very, well, how should we put this? Protective of their project. But as it starts rolling out and as we start seeing activities happen, obviously, it's not just the core people that are going to be doing those activities. And so communication becomes an extremely important task. And I remind myself constantly in the ministry, and I remind myself in my days prior to the ministry, and hopefully I will remind myself in days which will hopefully come sooner rather than later when I will return to real life outside of the ministry, that communication is something that is extremely important, and there is never enough communication.
Thank you very much. So proactive communication, and do not wait actually for the instructions, but proactively communicate. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I think that this is actually one of the key challenge, which is communicated also by the international partners during the communication which we have at the end, during the preparation of the projects, but also during the implementation of the projects. And specifically, maybe the detailed communication of the current situation, the risks, and maybe the solutions you have found already, how to mitigate them. Yes, thanks a lot. And
I will say, Svetlana, I'll say one more thing. I just want to stress to many of our colleagues that are outside of Ukraine at the moment, it's not as dangerous here as you might think reading the news. So if you have an opportunity to come, in particularly in Western portions of the country, to the center, it is worth fostering the communication by personally being here. We are very welcoming of all guests, and we will provide safety.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's very good points. And actually, there are a lot of events already happening, and really appreciate that you mentioned it, and also to the partners, coordinators who are already working on it and come to Ukraine during these 3 years of war, and helping our universities, helping our NGOs, and working with them actually on site together in the shelters, or also all other safety measures which we try to take over to continue our work here actively in Ukraine. And I guess in terms of the communication you mentioned, this is also another challenge which we have at Ukrainian organizations due to war consequences. We have a lot of staff turnover in different organizations, and that's like some of them are in the front line, or actually we have a lot of losses due to the war, and actually, it is important also to communicate, to find the contacts. And here you could also have, can rely on the ministry sites and also on other partners and beneficiaries as well of the NEO to find if you have the lost communication with certain persons, because you never know and can even guess what could be the reason behind it. Thanks a lot to our colleagues and partners from the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine and Ministry of Youth and Sport of Ukraine. And we continue our work, coming to the next part on the registration of the projects, but actually communication, the way of communication and the key work with the ministries. And it also would be communicated by the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, with also reference to the contacts of the Ministry of Youth and Sport of Ukraine. And let me invite Serhiy Shkapkov from the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, who actually is the key communication person with the Erasmus Plus projects for the last years. I don't remember how many actually already, but very strong also supporter during to the project teams during the implementation period. So Serhiy, the floor is yours, and I will share your presentation in a minute.
Thank you, Svetlana. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues, partners, and friends. I am honored to speak with you today about the implementation of Erasmus Plus projects in Ukraine, especially during such a challenging period of martial law. Let me introduce myself. I am Serhiy Shkapkov, and I lead the expert group for European integration at the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine. Today, I want to present a brief overview of the progress we have made, the obstacles we have faced, and the priorities that guide our future on peculiarities of Erasmus Plus projects implementation. Ukraine has progressively expanded its participation in the EU program since 2016. Erasmus Plus program is currently the only program with a systemic approach to capacity building of Ukrainian education for sectoral reforms in secondary, wet and higher education. As of now, Erasmus Plus provides opportunities to different types of Ukrainian organizations within almost 40 calls for proposals. Erasmus Plus project results are vital in strengthening educational institutions and stakeholders, driving reforms aligned with European best practices, including curricular development, good governance, and stronger collaboration. Being engaged in Erasmus Plus as a partner country, Ukraine's main efforts are led by the National Erasmus Plus office in Ukraine, while the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine focuses on communication, coordination, and advocacy support. Let's start with an overview of Erasmus Plus calls from 2022 to 2024. Despite the numerous challenges caused with an ongoing Russia's war of aggression, Ukrainian institutions submitted 293 applications, with 47 projects successfully funded, engaging 102 participants across 14 higher education institutions as grant holders. In that sector, 23 applications led to 10 funded projects, connecting 27 Ukrainian VET providers with European partners. Jean Monnet actions and key action to cooperation projects further demonstrated Ukraine's resilience. We secured funding for 258 Jean Monnet projects, and moreover, 32 Ukrainian higher education institutions joined 18 European university alliances as associated partners. In 2024, Ukraine was in top 3 leaders by the number of partners involved in the capacity building for higher education projects. Since 2022, to align Ukrainian Erasmus Plus applications with wartime needs, the ministry annually develops the list of national priorities for TA2 course applicants. In 2025, 8 project proposals were supported by the Ministry for Structural Reform Projects, 14 for Partnership in Higher Education, and 6 for CBVET call. A Europath project proposal was submitted to K2 CBH call in February this year, aimed at contributing to readiness of Ukrainian higher education system to Ukraine's membership in EU, including full participation in Erasmus Plus program. Next steps include a feasibility study on Ukraine's readiness, a self-evaluation toolkit for higher education institutions, and an Erasmus Charter for Higher Education roadmap. As of now, the ministry is a partner in 7 CBHA Erasmus Plus projects. They are aimed to decide very crucial tasks for transforming Ukrainian higher education system, including but not limited to as follows. Enhance university social role through boosting university community engagement, leading to the elaboration of state policy on supporting the third mission of universities for ensuring social cohesion, resilience, sustainability, and prosperity in Ukraine. Advance the growth of Ukraine's knowledge-driven economy for the post-war recovery by reforming the higher education system. This will be achieved through prioritizing open science across different levels, from national policies to individual researchers. Develop a methodological framework that will facilitate the renewal, improvement, and adoption of contemporary digital methods for organizing the education process as applied in higher education institutions, both within and outside the EU. This framework aims to ensure the implementation of inclusive principles under various learning conditions for learners who have been forced to migrate to safer regions or abroad. Also, develop competency-based curricula for continuous comprehensive training of specialists in the field of climate services in Ukraine, as well as initiation and development of additional education in climate change for decision makers, experts in climate-dependent economic sectors, and the general public. Ensure the digitalization of universities, building of digital competencies of university staff, development of bachelor, master, PhD, massive open online courses, advanced training that contributes to the formation of a modern teacher who knows how to use ICT in the educational process, opening centers for improving digital competencies, strengthening the technical base of universities to develop MOOCs and implement courses on teaching methods with the involvement of digital technologies, and also implement leading European competencies in the teacher training standard to ensure Ukraine's resilience. This involves a comprehensive curriculum reform with a focus on professional development for teaching staff and the internationalization of education within Ukrainian higher education institutions. And also influence the chaotic processes of digital transformation in education by creating an integrated digital educational ecosystem in Ukraine to ensure continuous, high quality, inclusive, and transparent learning, regardless of the students' and teachers' location, by leveraging existing digital innovations in education and embracing the clear paradigm of incorporating future advancements. At the systemic level, the CBHA projects have an invaluable impact for building the new mechanisms of cooperation between key actors in higher education, introducing new approaches to the open science and open data development, establishment of a digital environment, curriculum modernization, implementation of green transition principles in universities' communities, strengthening the third mission of universities and their new role in society. Speaking about our national priorities in 2025, our national priorities for 2025 reflect Ukraine's strategic path toward European integration. These priorities are closely tied to ongoing EU-UA accession negotiations and the dissemination of common European values. We aim to amp the European dimension in history education, train interpreters for EU official languages, and align higher education curricula with European standards. Higher education plays a pivotal role in regional recovery. Universities are stepping up as drivers of social cohesion, welcoming back the IDPs and leading initiatives in prosthetics, rehabilitation, demining, ecological restoration, and etc. We are fostering collaboration with businesses in construction, agriculture, and biotech, while supporting joint PhD programs, industrial doctorates, and enterprise-based traineeships. We are also prioritizing innovation and inclusivity in education. This includes promoting flexible learning paths, interdisciplinary and dual degree programs, and strengthening national and international mobility. English is increasingly becoming the lingua franca of Ukrainian higher education, expanding opportunities for global collaboration. Another key area is open science. We are looking forward to implementing data management best practices, establishing research data repositories, and promoting knowledge exchange through FAIR principles. This helps Ukraine's researchers remain globally connected and competitive. These priorities were sent to the European Commission for consideration during the evaluation of project proposals submitted within Erasmus Plus Call 2025. Moreover, today I would like to speak briefly about the state registration process for international technical assistance projects and programs, an essential procedure that ensures compliance with the legislation and international treaties of Ukraine. International technical assistance state registration is a mandatory procedure that serves multiple purposes. First, it forms the foundation for accrediting the implementers of this project. Second, it opens the door to receiving certain privileges, immunities, and benefits that are in line with both Ukrainian law and international agreements. This process is overseen and performed by the Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine. So, what does this process entail? Well, it requires the submission of specific documents from both the recipient of the project and the development partner, or an authorized representative from the development partner. These documents need to be submitted in both electronic and paper formats. The first document required is the request for state registration of the project or program. This request must include several key pieces of information such as the development partner, the implementer, the recipient, and the beneficiary. Additionally, the request should include the project's unique number assigned by the development partner. Another essential document is a certified copy of the contract between the development partner and the implementer. This contract should outline the goals, objectives, types, and volumes of international technical assistance, the estimated cost, and the stages and timelines of the project's implementation. Furthermore, the letter of support from the beneficiary should confirm their support for the project and highlight its alignment with Ukraine's strategic policy papers, including the Cabinet of Ministers Activity Program, the EU Association Agreement, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Alongside the project request, a certified procurement plan may also need to be submitted, particularly when the project requires tax benefits under Ukrainian law or international treaties. This procurement plan should be submitted in a language acceptable to the development partner with a mandatory translation into Ukrainian. It should also be updated if there are any changes, particularly when selecting subcontractors. Additionally, various documents may be required to confirm the alignment of project goals, tasks, and activities. These include a memorandum of activity, a plan that outlines the project's name, goals, timeline, tasks, and expected outcomes. The document should also specify the commitments of both the development partner and the recipient. After the Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers receives the necessary documentation, they have 10 business days to review and make a decision on the state registration of the ITA project. If the documents are incomplete or if there are discrepancies, the Secretariat will notify the applicant within 10 working days. If everything is fine, state registration will be confirmed with the issuance of a registration card. This card is signed and sent to the applicant with a copy forwarded to the beneficiary. At the same time, the project details are recorded in the official register of international technical assistance projects. It's important to note that any significant changes to the project, such as changes in the development partner, implementer, recipient, or budget, requires the project to be re-registered. Similarly, if the project timeline is extended, the relevant documents must be submitted for this procedure. In conclusion, the ITA state registration process is an important step that ensures transparency, accountability, and compliance with both national and international laws. It also allows projects to receive the necessary support and benefits to succeed. I encourage everyone involved in international projects to carefully follow these steps to ensure smooth registration and implementation. The next part of my presentation is dedicated to a critical component of ITA project and program management, the monitoring process. This process ensures the transparency, accountability, and effectiveness of every project funded by international development partners and implemented here in Ukraine. Monitoring is not just a procedural task, but an essential part of managing the success of these projects. It is conducted by the Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine in collaboration with the beneficiaries, the recipients, and authorized representatives of our development partners. Monitoring takes place both during the ongoing implementation phase of the project and at the final stages of the program. Let's first talk about the current monitoring. To facilitate this process, the recipient of the project submits key reports to the beneficiary. These reports are critical in assessing the project's progress and ensuring it aligns with the goals set at the outset. The first report is submitted by July 10 each year and contains the results of the semi-annual monitoring. A second, more detailed report is submitted by January 10 of the following year and includes the results of the annual monitoring. These reports are prepared in accordance with a predefined format and signed by the relevant project leader. In addition, we require copies of the meeting minutes from the supervisory boards and expert groups formed to oversee the project's activities. This is crucial for ensuring that the project's implementation is being properly guided and that all issues are addressed promptly. It's also important to note that the recipient and beneficiary must work together to allow for the Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers to review the on-the-ground status of the project's implementation. This on-site review is an essential part of our monitoring approach, ensuring the accuracy of the information submitted and confirming that the project's goals are being achieved as planned. Now, moving on to final monitoring. At the end of the project, the recipient is responsible for submitting the final monitoring report. This report summarizes the achievements of the project, assesses its overall impact, and provides a final accounting of the resources utilized. The final report is crucial because it informs both the beneficiaries and our development partners of the project's success and the lessons learned. It's worth mentioning that the failure to timely submit all types of monitoring reports is treated as a serious matter. If any of the required documents are not submitted, it is considered a sign of unsatisfactory project implementation. In such cases, the Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers may inform development partners and, if necessary, request a pause in the project's implementation until the required documents are submitted. In terms of accountability, both the beneficiary and the recipient play a critical role. They must submit signed monitoring reports every 6 months. This level of transparency ensures that the general public, the development partners, and the government can track the progress of every project. Each year, the Secretariat of Cabinet of Ministers also prepares consolidated information about all ITA projects. This information is derived from the monitoring reports and includes an analysis of the effectiveness of these projects, as well as recommendation for future development. And this annual review is published on the unified web portal of executive authorities, ensuring that all relevant stakeholders are informed about the outcomes and the future steps in international technical assistance. Finally, as part of this process, we may request information from our development partners regarding the status of projects. This might include reports, summaries, or links to online resources that provide insights into the implementation of these projects. By collecting and analyzing this data, we continue to enhance our ability to effectively manage the use of international tactical assistance and ensure that the resources are utilized in the most efficient way possible. In conclusion, monitoring is not just about compliance or checking boxes. It's about ensuring that every project is contributing to the development goals of Ukraine and that the resources provided by our international partners are being used wisely and effectively. We are committed to ensuring transparency, accountability, and success in every project we implement, and through continuous monitoring, we make sure that we are on track to achieve these goals. Summarizing, I would like to share context of focal points responsible for facilitating state registration and monitoring at the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine. You can see Tatiana Movchan, state expert, and the Ministry of Youth and Sports of Ukraine, Dmytro Ivanov, who is responsible for sport projects, and Natalia Rudnitska, responsible for youth projects. The representatives of project teams can obtain the necessary information of all on all related issues. Of course, none of above-mentioned processes is without challenges. The work complicates logistics, infrastructure, and even the safety of project participants. Yet the perseverance of Ukraine's education sector is unwavering. We continue to innovate, adapt, and seize every opportunity to bridge gaps and build lasting partnerships. Looking ahead, we call on our international partners to maintain and deepen our collaboration. More opportunities, more joint initiatives, and more shared knowledge will accelerate Ukraine's integration into European education area and contribute to the country's broader recovery. In closing, I want to express my deepest gratitude to all our European partners, educators, researchers, and students who make these projects possible. Your commitment to building a brighter future for Ukraine through education and cooperation is truly inspiring. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much indeed, Sergey, for the presentation and for the updates on the different aspects. So the Ministry of Education and Science as the key beneficiary is totally crucial in terms of the communication and cooperation. And thus, let me give you just, for also our international partners and Ukrainian partners, a kind of a wrap up of the key summary of why all these aspects were communicated and considered to be relevant to the implementation of the project during the martial law. First of all, the interaction and the close cooperation with the projects which are implemented at the national level, like the structural measures projects, where ministry is the partner, is also required the efforts and cooperation with and synergy of other projects which were funded in a similar topics in order to strengthen and actually combine and unite the efforts to have the wider national impact of such projects. So we encourage you to contact the ministry if your projects are working in the way, in the priorities which were communicated by Ministry of Education and Science today, that actually could have the wider specific reflection and response to the current needs of the reforms in education of Ukraine. Then also, in order to have the particular synergy between the projects, and also to see where the projects could contribute and impact the Euro integration path of Ukraine, and specifically our preparation stage, where we are now working during the negotiation period. It is also important that you prominently find out whether your project have actually the possibility of the impact in terms of the Euro integration pathway in Ukraine, and particularly the key priorities we are working on. The third one about the registration and the monitoring. First of all, the registration of the project. This is the first key things for what was mentioned by Sergey, but also it is the backgrounds of the smooth implementation of the project during the martial law. I will address in our presentation a little bit more in details in terms of the consequences of the registration of the project and influence on it in different project stages and for different project activities. Thus, you would know more about this exercise, which is communicated and coordinated by the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine for education and training projects, and by Ministry of Youth and Sport of Ukraine for youth and sport projects. Thus, please bear in mind that there would be more elaboration on it, while this is not only about the recognition, about the accreditation, but it is also about the mitigating the risks and challenges of the martial law in Ukraine for, to mitigate risks of the implementation of the project during martial law. Thus, we have with you now the part of the questions and answers. So we encourage you to raise your hands for the questions. If you have any, I will just monitor the chat whether we have some specific.
Larissa Chavnyuk raised.
Yes, Larissa, you are very welcome.
Thank you, Svetlana. Thank you, Sergey, very much for your presentation and kind reminder of all the procedure. This is rather not a question, but a kind request. So we deeply strongly recognize the cooperation and support of Ministry of Education and completely understand the necessity of registration of the project. But lately we have been waiting for the response for the Ministry of Education for the support letters for the registration for more than months with no reply. So if possible, again, so we would very much appreciate if the requests could be considered as Svetlana explained, why it is important for the successful implementation of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Larissa, for your remind to the ministry. I would like to say that as of now, after the last reporting campaign, we have more than 300 projects where the ministry is a beneficiary, and also a lot of requests from the HAES. And the capacity of our very small structural unit, our directorate, is not high, but we try to react in time, and I hope that you will have an answer in the nearest days, because I know about your request, and we have 1 week to the end of this. I understand that you want to have this letter in few days after your request, but as of now, we have a lot of different tasks, and the first priority is a negotiation process, and we have only one person who is responsible for monitoring, for state registration, and also consultations with our HAES.
Thank you very much, Larissa, for your question, and Serhii for the explanation. We will just maybe jointly request also the colleagues from the ministry to give also the priority for the projects which are coordinated by Ukrainian universities and Ukrainian organizations, since for them it's really kind of quite delays and blocks of a lot of procedures which they have to apply, especially after the registration. Thanks a lot for work. We know that the ministry team is working very hard with these procedures and with all the supports they can provide. And we will be also in constant communication for these matters with our partners. Thanks a lot. Any other questions? Please go ahead. I know there are a lot of brave, our international partners, who have a lot of questions, so you're very welcome to address to the ministry part first. Good. If no, then further questions. I don't see, in fact, in the... yes, there's one question here. That's, are you expecting the monitoring reports to be submitted by Ukrainian partners? Because the coordinators reports to the EU desk. So, Serhii, will you comment on that?
I replied to this question. The monitoring reports are sent to the beneficiary by only Ukrainian partners, because it's defined by our national legislation.
Yes, thanks a lot. So it's the internal procedure for the reporting, for the monitoring of the projects. And in addition, we could also address that the education institutions, as well as some state-funded organizations and enterprises, they are monitored also by the activities are monitored by the State Audit Service of Ukraine, and also some Rachunkova Palata and other authorities, which actually follows the activities of the organizations. And in fact, they monitor or auditing the activities of the organizations, including the international activities. And the key role for such kind of monitoring or auditing is to find out that all the funds which were received by the organizations are used specifically for the implementation of the particular projects according to the grant agreements. So just for our international partners also to be aware of that such procedures also are applicable in Ukraine, but that's the kind of activities of the organizations. And this works in that way. Okay, any other questions? We still have some minutes. We have, we have the, yes, the comments. Somebody previously told that to have visits from member states staff could be possible, at least to the western part of Ukraine. Can you be more precise on that matter? Yeah, it was the actually the invitation from the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, from the Deputy Minister in particular, from Mikhailo Vinitsky, who actually invited to join our Ukrainian partners in Ukraine for some events of the projects and to organize events. And in fact, so we just can, what we can do, we can share the experience we had already with the national agencies of Erasmus Plus, who organized the events in Ukraine already. And there was like the experience of organizing the high-level meeting of the rectors of the universities from Austria, who visited Uzhgorod. And we had the seminar on site, the high-level meeting there. It was like one-day event. And actually, the Uzhgorod, the city is closer to the border, and it allows the participants to arrive like in the early morning and depart in the late evening, or just the day before and the morning after the event. And actually, this is the city which was not bombarded. Of course, there were some sirens, but there are also some safety measures provided by the organizers, like there was the event in the premises with the shelter, and also the hotel was with the shelter premises. Thus, the also participants had the insurance to come to Ukraine, but for the limited period of time. That is why it was like one-day event. However, if you are interested furthermore, we can share and ask, for example, also the Ministry of Youth and Sport of Ukraine, who would share the events they are performing all over Ukraine, but mostly in the western part of Ukraine, like in the cities also closer to, like in Ternopil, in Chernivtsi, in Uzhgorod, in Lviv, and again, all the time the hotels and premises are considered to be with shelters, of course, for the participants. So that's like the key measures. And this is also the request from Ukrainian partners. When you communicate to your EU partners, please discuss and explain the specificity, explain what's could be done, what are the measures. And by the way, we had a very good event in Kyiv recently within the projects on the international students, where also the partners and the coordinator from Lithuania, from Latvia, from Netherlands, they also participated in the event in Kyiv. So it's still work is doing, like also in Drahobic, in Ternopil, there were some events organized within the projects, and recently also in Uzhgorod, there was a kickoff meeting of one event, and they usually a hybrid format if and there is a kind of like escalation of the situation. Hope I replied to your question, Angelo. Okay, I do not see any questions. Furthermore, that's okay. So according to our schedule, we have currently the still time for questions and answers, but we can go for a break or just to continue our further communication if there is any questions. So having a short break and then having a meeting, or continuing with some questions. Please don't be modest. Ask any questions you have and challenges you can share. Please do.
5 minutes break?
Yes, you're welcome.
5 minutes, no more.
Yes, Angelo, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Are you going to speak, or you're asking about the... Okay, so I see that here in the chat we have keep going. Okay, everybody's looking for the other word. Good, good. So that is the spirit of Erasmus holics. I can recognize. Good. So yes, let's then maybe have a look into the continuation of our discussion. And coming back to the questions about the presentations which are shared today, I would like to encourage you to go to our website. It's already there, and you could find out it in our news section already. So you just open the news about this webinar, and next to the speakers in the agenda, you can find out the files of the presentation provided by Mihailo already, and by Serhii Shkapor. And also there are the presentation which would be provided by us. And we also provided the guiding tips for beneficiaries. It's a draft document, as we communicated in the chart, that we will elaborate it more if there would be more comments and questions during the event today. So we then substitute this file, and also you would receive it together with the request for the further feedback. And I also encourage you to have a look into the analytical document, which is prepared by our team. It's about the participation of Ukrainian partners in Erasmus Plus program. It reflects the information for 10 years, but also with the specifics of the last stage of Erasmus Plus. And also just a little bit of further short maybe updates for the useful resources for the projects, where you have also the analytics and the database of all the projects for further interaction. That's actually refers also to calls for proposals, and eliminated here by the calls for proposals. So you could find out the projects by the actions with the partners according to the information our team received from the EU delegation of Ukraine, or have found in the relevant portal of the results of European Union Erasmus Plus projects. So thus, actually, you have already the promotion of your project via website, also through the info boxes we prepared, the Compedia and other things, and we will talk about it a little bit later. And thus, I'm sorry, just it was by accident. If we return back to the key page, we also have a specific page devoted to Erasmus Plus during martial law. So thus it is in English and Ukrainian language, and where we place also the information for the partners who are implementing the projects under different actions, as well as for the Ukrainian partners, we have a specific beneficiary space in Ukrainian language for the beneficiaries of the projects by the actions. So that's like the key resources for the projects who are implementing the particular work which you are doing during your project's lifetime and life cycle. Does any further questions? No. Okay. Then just to have, I guess, the approach again of the Erasmus projects, which are devoted to sport. They usually remind us that there should be a break, a healthy break during the events. And thus, I encourage you that we now have a short break, as it is stated in our agenda. And then we will return back at according to the program at 5 o'clock Ukrainian time, or it's 4 o'clock Central European time. So if there is still no other questions, do you mind then to have a short break? Good. So then let's meet again within to a little bit more than 15 minutes, right? Good. Thanks a lot. See you soon. Stay connected, please. Dear colleagues, dear partners, we are returning slowly and will continue our work very soon. Do not forget to join us back and to keep your mics muted if you're not speaking, and think about the questions. And if you refer back to the presentations which are available on the website already, perhaps you would recall some further questions. So please do not hesitate to ask, that we can actually furthermore elaborate also this document and the presentation based on your key comments, based on your needs, and thus find out the experience of other Ukrainian partners, how they mitigate or how they cope with the specific challenges and risks during martial law. Okay. Thus, we are going to our second part with the presentation from the National Erasmus Plus office team. And thus, it is based, as I already mentioned, on the experience gained during the 3 years of martial law, and also on the work we have been doing together with our Ukrainian organizations implementing the projects. And I'm really very happy to see here our international partners and Ukrainian partners who we met during the kickoff meetings, during the project events, but also before war and before COVID, to welcome you in Ukraine. And so where also there were lots of common events organized by the European Commission, organized by European Education and Culture Executive Agency and national agencies. And thus we hope we would return back to normality soon after the victory. And thanks a lot for your impact and contribution. Let me introduce our team. Unfortunately, not they are all online today with us. Because they are currently at other events, also performing the presentation and doing the promotion of the projects and activities, and also working in the working groups together with higher education reform experts in the Ministry of Education and Science. Thus, we have 7 members in total of our team and managers by actions. We have 4 who are working full-time, others are part-time, but still the team is very resilient. I'm very happy and blessed with the National Erasmus Plus office team, and very thankful to them for the also resilience and work that they have been doing every day, facing all the challenges and consequences of the martial law. And having this situation in mind, we prepared the specific and reflected the specific page on our website in order to provide to the international partners the key and important information of the situation. And thus, we also have the large presentation which reflects all the actually directions, let's call it, or all the consequences which could be faced by the project during martial law. And also we will update it after our events with the current information. Thus, we also have the specific web page for the project's promotion, where you could actually place the project's activities and interact with other projects. And also the analytics which we prepare in the database. I have shown you the specific pages where we are working with, and also about our mandates and other activities we perform. And specifically, we encourage you to work closely on the further dissemination of the projects together with our team, using our resources and other possible activities. But talking about the specific, first of all, of course, to complement to what the ministry partners explained, the solidarity of European Union with Ukraine and the cooperation which were performed during these 3 years. It reflected into the new initiatives, into the flexibility measures, and thanks a lot to each our international partners who actively reacts and provides the specific support to the implementation of the projects, and thus it ends up in the 2022 and 2024 calls for proposals in the huge results. And as you could imagine, that's the project teams have been working together under the challenges they were facing a lot, the escalation of attacks, but still continue and submitting a lot of proposals and have got the good results, and thus the cohort of projects have been implemented currently. For our international partners, just to understand the potential of our Ukrainian education system, and especially the work during the martial law and the changes we have had during this period of time in the education system, we could find out that we have a huge network of the potential partners and current partners within the project, representing the higher education institutions, secondary schools, vocational education and training institutions, academies of science of Ukraine in different sectors, but also the youth organizations and organizations working in sport. And thus, the Erasmus Plus program is considered in Ukraine as an instrument for the support to recovery and also the preparation of the to the EU membership. And that is why you today also learned some critical priorities where this instrument is already have impact, and potentially with your projects could even strengthen this impact for the Euro integration. The implementation of the projects in Ukraine is regulated by the International Intergovernmental Agreement, which is ratified by Verkhovna Rada as a law, and it provides exactly the specific possibility for the implementation of the projects with the help of the registration as the international technical assistance according to this regulation of the international technical assistance, and thus to apply certain specific cases to which influences the implementation. Also, the regulation of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine on the mobility provides the possibility to join the international credit mobility projects, the mobility projects for the staff and students, as well as the learning mobility for the, for example, you call it the formal, non-formal, and informal education. And we also have the new law on amendments to the higher education law on individualized learning pathway, which you see is very recent, and it was mentioned by the Deputy Minister of Ukraine of the Education and Science, but also just to understand that it also provides the specific possibility for the further recognition on the formal and informal education. It is important to know for the projects which are working with the youth mobility, for example. And of course, the grant agreements, the interinstitutional agreements, mobility agreements, partnership agreements, and other agreements which are relevant for the Erasmus Plus project, they are must to be concluded during this period in order to help the implementation smoothly in Ukraine and have it officially recognized for further also the implementation according to the actually national legislation and institutional regulations. The implementation of such projects is really critical for all types of organizations to be implemented in accordance with the national legislation and institutional regulations, thus according to the type, of course, of the organization. And in terms of the agreements which are regulated for further implementation, the institutional agreements is a must and important for the specific of the implementation during martial law, and specifically for example, for the mobility, as you know, that we had the selection of the participants, and during martial law we had to update or just refer it to reconsider it to the challenges of the martial law and make it as the nomination instead of selection, or vice versa, or both. So thus it is really highly encouraged to communicate with Ukrainian partners in understanding the institutional regulations and understanding the national specific on how they work during martial law, and what are the restrictions and what are the specific challenges. Each institution has its own, and specifically, and actually thanks to you and cooperation with the EU partners, we have been already developed a lot of institutional regulations on the mobility rights, or mobility implementation, and also international cooperation at the universities. So thus they have already existed, and please do not forget to communicate them. Then there are some regulations which have been implemented during the martial law to respond to these challenges and consequences. They are on the border crossing for the students of for the first semester. This is also for the regulation of the priority of the payments for the international technical assistance projects, and regulation of transfer funds in currency abroad, and within Ukraine for other partners, for example, for coordinators from Ukraine, and also specific regulations on different aspects. In fact, provides this really smoother implementation of the projects. And the tendering procedure specifically referred to the martial law also was simplified for the projects and the implementation in the international technical assistance. Thus, let's have a look into the specific challenges which were communicated on the different categories, like, for example, on the safety measures. We discussed a little bit on that already, but still just have a look into the broader picture. That's, of course, no safe place in Ukraine. And there are certain measures already in place where the shelters are already implemented within the educational institutions, and also in different infrastructures for the events organizations, for example, and performance. But in terms of the educational institutions, the shelters is a must to have the on-site or blended formats of education. And majority of the institutions have been performing in the different formats, the activities, including the Erasmus Plus activities. And thus, do not forget to ask your partners about it. Then some organizations, some institutions, like educational institutions, including higher education institutions, universities, and other organizations, were relocated, and they are operational in the new places. And some of them are still at the closer at the territory under attack, like closer to the front line. And again, the specific communication is required in this sense in order to understand what is the situation at the moment. Then for staff and student safety, the blended format of events with the video conference recording was the measures taken by different partners in the projects in education, training, youth and sport, to ensure that more partners from Ukraine could benefit from the participation in the events where they can. For example, they cannot go abroad for the events of the projects, and this, the reason for this could not be only of the limitation of the mail transfer crossing the border, but also for the safety reasons, and also sometimes they are not in a position to leave their families in Ukraine and go abroad for the event. So that's a lot of reasons why sometimes it is important to organize the blended format of events. Of course, they cannot substitute the face-to-face. We absolutely understand it, but still, please adopt and help Ukrainian partners to have the events in the blended format where it is possible, that they would be furthermore very much updated. Then the safety measures should be reminded all the time during the events with Ukrainian partners, that they also would absolutely be very attentive to the safety measures. And of course, talking about the documentation of the projects, it this is about the storage of the projects in the cloud, on the clouds, or find out a possibility of the mirror of their server if there is the requirements or if there is a need. So discuss this possibility because the attacks are unpredictable, and the shelling is actually all over Ukraine, might happen at any time. Of course, the staff losses, as we already explained, they might be different reasons, but also to have the access to the emails, especially for the partners within the universities. Maybe it's a good idea to organize, to have the corporate email with the access to the backups all the time, like not one person, but a few persons to be access to the communication within the partnership. And of course, about the equipment, the temporary storage in the partners located closer to the border. If relevant, it could be a solution also for the storage of the equipment temporarily, of course, but again, based on the situation. And of course, if destroyed, there's a necessity on the immediate communication to the project officer of the granting authority, and no delay if there is any changes or any activities postponed or delays with the purchase of equipment. It should be definitely communicated to the granting authority. And talking about the credit mobility, that's there are some issues which should be taken into consideration, including the institutional regulation for mobility adopted to the martial law consequences, but also the interinstitutional agreements and track records provided by, or certificates on mobility provided to the students, provided to staff, should be provided just on time and very fast after the end of the mobility, because sometimes this is about the procedure internally for the universities when they need this track records or they need the certificates of mobility to be involved into further process of the recognition. Sometimes there are some delays with the documents for permission of staff and researchers and students for mobility, so thus they should be very early communicated. And also the crossing the border procedures for specific category, they require the early communication and not later than 2 weeks. So the full package of the staff, for example, to be mobile should be submitted to the Ministry of Education and Science, and also just a specific procedure should be taken. We will talk about it as well. Then the talking about students who are on mobility, if we take the international credit mobility part, again, there are some cases when the students were recommended to have the temporary protection, which not is the case we are interested in terms of the participation in the projects. But of course, it was the only exclusive measures when it was not possible to get visa. So we request our international partners to communicate with the authorities to find out the possibility of obtaining the visa either from Ukraine or on site, but that the students would remain as the mobility students, but not as the residents or of the temporary protection. Thus, sometimes, and we had this experience when the students refused to take the temporary protection status and they just left the mobility, and thus the whole burden of the preparation of the mobility and also the amount of funds were lost. So that's, it's been quite important situation to be taken into account. Then also the longer period during mobility should be taken into consideration, blended formats of mobility, and also it could be the solution for such kind of projects. And that's what we receive, we have been receiving from different organizations, including from educational and youth and sport organizations for the participation in mobility, learning and credits. Thus the request to NEO to validate or certify the organizational OID. We do not have the mandate to do so. We do not have access for it. Please contact the national authority of the applicant organization. So just its national agency of the applicant organization that works on that, in fact. And also sometimes in youth part, the Salto Youth Agency responsible for Ukraine is actually the right contact person or right contact point to be communicated. The mobility of certain categories, so there is a solution provided during the martial law, of course, due to this limitation of the martial law, the male students have the limitation to cross the border and even for the international cooperation. And thus we have the further updates, the latest update of the regulation, when the specific documents and procedures are described in details on our website, and it requires the preparation of the student mobility for the males for only one semester. And we require and request our partners to be very careful and in constant communication with the Ukrainian partners about this specific procedure. And again, some universities, for example, they do not put the priority for male students to go for mobility, but only for female due to the risks of not return. And in the case of the mobility of staff, there is a solution also found with in the communication with the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine and other ministries, that they provide the letter of request to the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine. Please do not forget that, again, this procedure should be done as early as possible. And then the full package is submitted to the ministry, and based on the letter, the State Border Guide Service provides the permission for the mobility under Erasmus Plus project, but short-term stay for the staff as well, up to 3 weeks maximum. And these specific cases could be communicated back with the State Border Guard Services. Unfortunately, but still, there is the limitation for the full-time students. Thus, Erasmus Mundus scholars are not allowed to cross the border, as well as the youth mobility or youth workers mobility or NGO staff or other organization staff which are not state-funded. And in fact, in this case, the focus is recommended to be done on the Ukrainians who are abroad already, and to invite them to participate in different events. Then talking about the transfer of funds within implementation and during implementation of the projects, there are certain cases which were actually caused by the martial law, and especially when we have the transfer from EU partners to Ukrainian organizations' accounts. We had the experience when there was the blockage of such transfers. And in these cases, the communication with the bank and with the Ukrainian universities is critical in order to provide specific documents as a solution. And we describe this exactly here and also in our guidance tips document. And such parts, there is the siren in Ukraine, and we highly recommend and request cordially our Ukrainian partners to use this opportunity also and find the shelter or the safest place. Please go to the safest place within the place where you are now. And we will continue monitoring the situation, since also our team is working from Ukraine and specifically from the office. We will double check whether we would need to stop our work if there is the further threat. But still, we continue. But please, Ukrainian partners, just do not forget, do not neglect the siren. Thus, in terms of this solution, the Ukrainian partners provide the request of the official letters from the bank, certifying that the institution is and the bank is in the place which is operational in and states and located in the place where the under the control of the national authorities of Ukraine, and also that the university or the organization which was relocated, for example, from the temporary occupied territory should provide this confirmation that they were relocated and they are performed at the territory currently under the control of the national authorities. The key contradiction, let's call it, in some documents, which also prevents the, for example, EU bank to transfer the funds. It might be the case when the university legal address is still mentioned as the one at the temporary occupied territory, and the relocated address, the real address, or just the office address, is the new one and the control of the national authorities. It remains in the case with the hope to return back when the territories would be liberated back, but still these two points sometimes really make the banks in EU countries understand or think or consider that the universities or organizations are placed on the territory which are occupied. So be very careful with that, and do not forget to refer to this recommendation. And there are successful stories on that. Then transferred funds from Ukraine to abroad, especially when the projects are coordinated by Ukrainian partners, and also within Ukraine to other Ukrainian partners who in currency, like in Europe. That's also required the registration of the projects, and thus the procedure you were communicated. And this is only due to the martial law, when there is an exclusion done for the projects registered in international technical assistance that are currently could transfer the funds in currency to EU countries, or, for example, if there are partners from other countries like Moldova and other, so then you could also transfer funds to these countries from the coordinator. Or if there are some unspent funds and there is a necessity to return them, so thus also it allows, for example, for the projects which are currently under the finalization. In rare cases, the banks could provide this transfer based on the guarantee letter, but it's just very few cases, so please do not forget to work on that very carefully in order to register the projects. Then also another challenge is instability of the currency exchange rates, and thus the grant funds should be kept in currency accounts, and also just use the part of it when the necessary payments should be done. And of course, the banks should be informed that this is the project registered as the international technical assistance, and that there is a possibility for it allows also the bank to make further different operations, like for the transfer abroad, or also to use it furthermore for the implementation of the project as it is. And also there is a specific regulation for the, which is important to mention all the time in the communication of the Ukrainian partners, that's during martial law, we have only the priority as the salaries of the staff of the state-funded organization, institutional organizations, but not other budget lines. Within the projects registered, there is the priority also to cover and to pay all invoices related to the projects. So thus, there would be no delay, or not that significant delays for the implementation of the projects and payments for the one or the other invoice in terms of the travel or other things. Then the payments within the institutions, it's also important to understand this specific, sorry, just I will just share it one more time. It is important to understand this specific of the payments within Ukrainian institutions. Just, sorry. Okay. Yes, so we will just continue. Yeah, so thus for that cases, it is important to understand the approaches for the educational institutions, like state-funded educational institutions, including the that higher education schools and adult education institutions and also other organizations like STEM funded, for example, they have the State Treasury Services of Ukraine or local administration that manages the operational accounts in hryvnia. So they, unfortunately, they do not have, especially in the local administrations, they do not have that much experience in the implementation of the projects and managing the grants as well as the capacity itself. So thus, if you have school, preschool organization in the institution in your projects, there should be a strong work with these organizations to help them and build capacity for the implementation of the project itself, managing the grant funds inclusively. And in case of the State Treasury Services of Ukraine, again, they are more experienced, but still there might be some challenges which are important to take into consideration. And the priority of payments, as we communicated on that, so they are mentioned as the regulation was provided during the martial law, and thus the other challenge within the institutions is the merger process consequences. In terms of these consequences, the payments might be blocked within the institutions which are under reorganization. Let's call it the old name of organization is in your partnership agreement or in your grant agreement, but the new, which was merged to, or if it was established, the new institution, so they are not mentioned in your grant agreement and not partnership agreement. So thus the amendments to the grant agreement is required, but in this case, if the Ukrainian university knows already they may be focused or already under the process of reorganization, please inform immediately your coordinator, or if you are a coordinator, inform the EACA or just national agency or other granting authority, specifically granted authority, about the situation. They will guide you in terms of the necessary steps to be done, because there are certain consequences and certain procedures which should be communicated specifically by granting authority that would help to speed up this process and then to work on the implementation of the projects furthermore. Okay, so changes. Then about the equipment. During the martial law, we have a specific, again, economic situation of the, for example, availability of the certain equipment and certain providers, which you can imagine also were influenced due to martial law. And in specifically, there are some, let's call it lack number or less number of the organizations who provides the equipment, and if, of course, if you have some specific equipment, it could be hard to find out the providers in Ukraine, and thus these tendering procedures should be considered to be established in the earlier stage, and but not earlier than the official registration performed. As you were already explained by the ministry partners, that the procurement plan should be a part of this registration procedure for the equipment, and it would help you to apply furthermore the exempt of the VAT, then also certain requirements like the uncustom fees, Viva, and also storage at the free of charge premises of the custom service that could furthermore be then also used for the project's equipment work. But in this case, the delivery from abroad require a custom procedure, and also there might be the case when you need the specific broker who will work with the custom services, and that's you should consider where to budget these expenses. Otherwise, there might be the problem during the documentation formation of the package for the delivery of the equipment. Then also during the tendering procedure, some partners informs that there were the delays with the interest from the providers. Then also some winners refused after they accepted the invitation to sign the agreement. And also there were like delay of the delivery of the equipment due to the safety reason and the specific, for example, insurance was required in certain cases. Thus, please do not forget that it should be really communicated beforehand in terms of all these risks and to ensure the possibility to organize the purchase in the most relevant way. And the agreements could be like concluded. They could be bilateral when there is a direct delivery of equipment to one partner, or like the multilateral where the provider could deliver it to all partners. But also don't forget about the guarantee for further implementation or exploitation of the equipment itself. Then the key message is, of course, to talk and to inform your coordinator, and coordinator should inform the granting authority immediately about the delays, about the challenges with the equipment purchase, and also in certain cases request perhaps the changes of the deliverables with the equipment purchase, if it is relevant, if it is possible, if it is justified. Then for the registration of the projects, the National Erasmus Plus Office could provide the procedures, templates, and other relevant information upon the request. And EU delegation to Ukraine, they provide support letter for the registration only based on the of our team verification of the registration package. Thus, you have the contacts in our office who actually could provide you the information on that matters, and they work in terms of the 3 different fields, and thus in close cooperation also with the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, Ministry of Youth and Sport of Ukraine, and the Cabinet of and Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, and EU delegation to Ukraine. So the details also have the procedure, it's already in place, and of course this is the important part of the project implementation periods in order to cope with the certain risks and mitigate the possibilities of certain delays. And yeah, we'll already show you the information about the project's promotion possibilities. Also, they are promoted via the website of the Ministry of Education and Science, Ministry of Youth and Sport, and other authorities. So you could use these platforms also for further implementation, promotion of the projects. And just summing up, that the Erasmus Plus community is resilient, and we have organizations operational despite of the effects of the constant attacks, and thus everybody already have found the way of responding to these challenges. And also national authorities and well as other stakeholders, they are working to find different solutions to the martial law challenges. Also we have found the ones which we already shared with you today, and also which are described in the guiding tips you had already on our website. And of course, there are the case studies, the best practices, higher education from experts who also provides the support for the content-wise matters for higher education projects, but still the experienced beneficiaries are ready to share their best practices. Please do not hesitate to ask for this guiding tips for the experience. We perform, our team perform the winners days, which we also record, and they are provided the specifics for the local specific and implementation of the projects during martial law, in particular for the based on the local specifics, and they are done in Ukrainian language for Ukrainian partners, but still there are the recording parts, as well as we always rely on the also the recorded webinars for winners or coordinators organized by the granting authorities like European Education and Culture Executive Agency, like national agencies, and also other relevant authorities which can help with the implementation of the projects. Thus, the regulations, national and institutional, applied according to the specific type of organization and could be found jointly with other stakeholders, of course. But first of all, the key and I would say the foremost message is, of course, that the challenges and the risks which are existing, of course, during the martial law, as well as the solutions to mitigate them, could be done together. And the projects of yours are governed by the grant agreements, and activities must be complied with this all promises that you did during the application stage. And thus, each beneficiary must inform the granting authority and the other beneficiaries, of course, immediately in the case of events or circumstances which likely to affect the significant delay or the implementation of the projects. But just don't forget to communicate to your project officer and the granting authority for all the risks, all the potential ones, and maybe suggesting some solutions. And our National Erasmus Plus Office Higher Education Reform Expert Team is at your helping hand in Ukraine. And we are all the time really very happy to welcome you in our office and ready to cooperate furthermore. Thanks a lot. Sorry for my delay a little bit of the presentation, but ready for the questions. So I'm looking to the chart. Okay. Send the presentation as already mentioned, and in the chart we provided the link. The presentations are there. You can find them. We will send this link to you with the request to provide our feedback. Then also we see that here in the chart there are the partners from the National Europass and Euro Guidelines Centers of Ukraine, and also the European Quality Assurance Support Qualification Framework Center Support Center. So please be aware that we have also other partners here in Ukraine, like also eTwinning Support Office and the Information Center Erasmus Plus Youth. And we cooperate closely with Salto Youth Centers, with Salto Education and Training Centers, who are also the partners in terms of the implementation of the projects. Thus, we see the questions from the audience. Larisa Kalachevska, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Larisa Kalachevska, Sumy National Agrarian University. Dear Svetlana, I represent the Regrow project team. As a part of our project, we need to purchase specialized precision farming equipment. We are talking about drones and agronavigators. And unfortunately, this equipment has become very expensive and we cannot buy it for the amount provided for in the project budget. What do you think? Can we replace the equipment and choose it according to the budget? Of course, new equipment will meet the project's objectives. What are your tips on how to handle this situation? Our project coordinator is also available here in this meeting, and we hope for sharing some experience how to solve this problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for these specific questions, and I'm sure that your project coordinator could communicate this issue and this challenge, in fact, particularly this specific challenge, to your project officer in EACA, and explain also the situation, but also maybe suggest the solution. As, for example, you could look or just have a look into the market suggestions, what is available, and specify and justify whether it is possible to buy less or whether it is possible to substitute something which could in any case will not influence this equipment as the instrument to implement the objectives of the project successfully. I mean that they should not impact this, the globally the implementation of the project. So thus the strong communication between your coordinator and project officer with the explanation, justification, and maybe the possible solutions which could be done. There are some cases where it was possible just to within this communication, but again, it is case by case basis and coordinator and project officer. But of course, just do not forget to provide this justification. What is the situation? Why and how we could see the possibility?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tatiana Solodjuk, welcome.
Solodjuk, hello, my name is Tatiana Solodjuk. I'm from Vasily Stefanik Prokopeshin National University, and I have a very narrow question. It's financial. It has occurred an issue of absorbing of European funds received on the account of the university. We get this cost, this expenditure from from Erasmus projects, and we need to use some part of them for project management. Is it possible, or are there some mechanisms besides copyright agreements? Because we have consulted with our head accountant, and she told that it is the only one mechanism.
Thank you for your question, Tatiana. I'm not sure that I understand correctly the second part of your question. What is the problem? In any case, if the only document which you have is the grant agreement and the partnership agreement, so there are two documents. And also for the implementation of the project and further sustainability, you have a sustainability plan, which also reflects the further implementation of the project's exploitation of results and other things, which is important also to have for each project, specifically in the capacity building and other things. But again, please just communicate this question to the project officer via coordinator. It's the only authority, granting authority, which could provide you the specific either permission for changes, to make changes in the specific cases, or just to provide the definite instructions on how to work with these funds if this relates to the grant agreement issues.
Okay, thank you. But maybe it would be maybe you will recommend, because I was asked about I asked about some instruments, because is it possible besides copyright agreements to master these funds or not? Some financial instruments, because we know that costs are costs have received on accounts like the direct budgeting direction, like education, and should we change the budgeting direction to science and make some or it is, and maybe
I see. It's specifically of the receiving of the funds
yes,
in order to, again, to work with the, to receive this specific additional funding from the ministry for the research projects.
Yes.
This was
Yes.
your question.
Yes.
Okay, it was a little bit different from what you actually communicate in the first part, but this is really a specific case for Ukrainian universities, and specifically the reply would be the following. In this case, first of all, each institution should have the specific regulation of the work with the international cooperation projects. And thus, you should have the specific committee which actually would communicate or would find out or decide whether this specific project has the scientific results or not, in order to provide it for the research code, let's call it, of the activities of the universities. If, again, it should be verified and confirmed that the specific results, outcomes of the project has this research type, which of course sometimes within the project you have it. Like, for example, in the Jean Monnet project, there is a specific research part, and also when you modernize the courses or the educational programs, you have to do research. So if you have the monography or just any other research outcomes within Jean Monnet, of course, this is the research part. In order to understand what outcome is related to research, this should be checked with the law on the research. So you have this law where specifically the terminology of all research outcomes is mentioned. So thus, this is institutional level. It is not regulated by the program at all. This is just what I communicate. This is based on the experience of the other universities who established such procedure, and they do it at the level actually when they apply to the grant, to the calls for proposals, or during the implementation of the project. I mean, or at the stage when they receive the notification that actually the project was funded. So it's purely institutional procedure. It has nothing to do with the Erasmus Plus project guidelines. So just the key guidelines of the Erasmus Plus projects, that all the outcomes should be used with the educational purpose. Absolutely, with educational purpose. But again, you might have the education of third level of education, like PhD students, which of course have a part of research. So other things. This is just specific cases where you have to apply. But this is institutional level.
I understood. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, we have some also comments. Deputy Minister of Education mentioned future merger institution. Do you have timing of this merger? They are happening just specific strategic solutions for long term. Unfortunately, there is no official list of the projects or a forecast for the universities which are going to be under transformation. We will actually request this information from the ministry if they have the latest updates. In fact, as you know, some Ukrainian universities are reported to or responsible to different national authorities. Like some of them are responsible to the Ministry of Education and Science, the others for Ministry of Healthcare of Ukraine, the others for infrastructure or agriculture, and others. So there is specifically the diverse responsibility of let's call it coordination of the universities. In fact, as for example, for the school and vets, they are all responsible to the local authorities, so all communal. So they have this, or even private, if different cases. Once there would be such official information, we will definitely share it with the EACA, with the national agencies, and also with the project teams, just that you would know about it. At the moment, important thing is that your Ukrainian partner should immediately communicate to you, and you should communicate immediately to your project officer in order to understand the procedures. They would guide you on the specific steps to be done, because really there are specific cases which require this strong communication with the granting authority in order to make it more smooth. We have actually in the chat also request to complete the feedback with the comments. For example, what was lacking in the presentation, and if you happen already to look through the guiding tips, also to see what are the cases which are missing and where you need maybe more information, or in terms of the risks that you are facing during the implementation of the projects. And if you also share with us your these risks or these consequences which were not mentioned today or not mentioned in the presentations or the guiding tips, please share it with us. It is important for us that we would help you to find the solutions and the answers to your questions in this tip, of course, based on the local specifics and the related to the martial law. The question also, yes, and also there is the note from our technical support to our team that's about the certificate for participation in this event. You could fill in the form, which is also in the link. Please do not forget to do it. The question from Angelo, where they have the question regarding buying the equipment. Not later than 12 months of the project final deadline. There is the delay. Thus, postpone of the deadline can be possible. So this is the direct question for your project officer. So just ask and justify, and then I'm sure that you would discuss and find the solution together with your project officer. This is absolutely purely the responsibility of the project officer, and the justification from each partner, the reason why there is a delay, and also the justification from your parts back to the project officer. I encourage you to do this communication as soon as possible and maybe organize the meeting with the project officer to discuss this question. Okay. Yeah, welcome. Question to the audience: This any Ukrainian university could sign students exchange agreement with any EU universities during current war time? Background: I'm running a project from Sweden with 2 Ukrainian universities, not Erasmus, and as a part of project progress, we want to make student exchange agreement with a note on agreement that currently no one can travel to Ukraine as per recommendations from Swedish Foreign Ministry. But my university legal expert says we can not make any such agreements, not as our students cannot travel to Ukraine now. So if we talk about, if somebody from Ukrainian universities can share the experience, please go ahead. Then we will provide some comments if there is no cases. Just a question to the audience: did anyone of the universities host the foreign students during martial law? I know there were some cases. From Taras Shevchenko University, I guess there was the communication that they hosted the students during martial law. Anyone could share the experience? Okay, just maybe it is not related to Erasmus Plus. I think that there should be more specific on that. On Erasmus, you can conclude these agreements. In fact, so in terms of incoming students, sometimes the recommendation goes for the blended format of mobility, to have very short stay in Ukrainian university, for example, and to have parts of the education for the short exchanges online. And we have currently very strong campaign for the international students enrollment to the Ukrainian universities, and just in case-by-case basis, I'm sure you could even refer to the Ministry of Education and Science to ask their recommendation on that specific case. And I guess, and I think I encourage you to do so. And there is also the State Center for International Education in Ukraine with the website studyinukraine.gov.ua, where you could find some other information or recommendations also concerning the incoming students. By the way, this center provides the official invitations for students, also incoming students from EU, also for Erasmus Plus. So just be aware of this opportunity as well, and the contacts. You can write to our email. I will provide you the contacts for this center and of the ministry. Actually, you could communicate further on this specific issue. Okay, so then actually we also can share the contacts of the International Relations Office of Bogomolets National Medical University, who could share the experience of their work with the international students coming to the university currently during martial law. Thanks a lot, Oksana, for your, Lesia, for your, Oksana and Lesia, yeah, for your experience. Okay, any other? I don't see any comments or questions in the chart. Okay. Okay. So, any other questions, comments, recommendations at this stage? Maybe experience during the implementation of the projects with the exactly, for example, challenges which were not come. Diana Spielberg, you're welcome. Sorry, I don't know why you cannot.
University of Genoa, Unicom, but here I am asking about other things. We have also Erasmus mobility exchange, and we have student exchange, but Embassy of Italy is closed and do not deliver the visa. So students came here without visa. So we are quite obliged to do for them the permissions like for humanitarian protection.
I see. Yeah, unfortunately, there are several challenges with this visa procedures. At the same time, in terms of Italy, I also encourage not only in terms of Italy, but also with other countries, the national agencies of Erasmus Plus, they help a lot with the visa obtaining procedures to be speed up, and also with the recommendations on the visa facilitation. We had a positive experience during martial law already, also with the Spanish national agency, who helped to cope with these challenges, and also with the others, but still there should be also a communication with them if you see that you cannot find the solution at the level of the institution. They have also the department's units sometimes responsible to help with the visa facilitation, so it could be the case. And what is important to be communicated to the student at the beginning, that if they go without visa, they must be ready to apply for the temporary protection. If they refuse being already in Italy, of course, you can understand the consequences, because we had such cases, and it's really quite difficult, of course, for the project implementation, but again, it should be communicated beforehand. Here, the visa centers, in fact, all the time, not visa centers, but the embassies, they always have a specific page, even though if they're closed, they have the specific page with the contacts, who to contact about the visa issues and where to apply. And sometimes they have the visa centers or visa units closer to the border, for example, if not in Kyiv, then in western part of Ukraine, like in Chernivtsi. Some of them have in Chernivtsi or in Uzhhorod, or in Poland, and then the student have to go to Poland for visa application. But it should be definitely specified both sides, from the Ukrainian part with the embassy of, for example, Italy in Ukraine, and also from your side with the National Erasmus Plus agency, perhaps they could provide also the recommendations on this matter. Olena Smirnova, you're welcome.
Yes, good morning, or good evening. I'm Olena Smirnova from Poltava State Agrarian University. So we also have the challenges with the open visa bar in Germany. Our student applied to the embassy in Poland, but she get the answer that the funding which she get from the Erasmus Plus is not enough to stay in Germany. So we try to conduct this situation with opening account in our private bank, but it's not their case. They need the close account in some European countries because our banks don't provide such account. So.
Oh, thanks a lot, Olena. In fact, again, this is the specific cases, and if there is such a the problem or communication from the visa department, consulate, or the embassy, it should be definitely communicated via your German partner receiving a host university to the national agency, because this is exactly the case where agency should explain to the embassy about the amount which is relevant for the Erasmus Plus. So that's, in any case, this is really a specific case which should be communicated at this level. And then the agency could decide whether they could maybe address this issue to the European Commission to be then furthermore communicated at the country's level. But at this moment, what should be done, this is the communication to the German partner and German partner to its national agency, but with the specific formulation you received from the embassy.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, of course, there is a comment that, yeah, the same situation in Spain. First students arrive in January without visa. Yeah, and so then we order the visa directly. Okay, well, here, I mean, in Spain, after the arrival. So it's Loretta from the National Agency of Spain, I guess. Loretta, you can actually share your experience via taking the mic if you want to and comment on, because I know that you really did good support to a lot of students already who had experienced this problem. Okay. So any other questions, comments? Right, so we are on time with you, actually. I guess this is not very often case for the events organized by our team, because we usually have also a lot of information to share and also a lot of discussions. But here again, we all understand that there are a lot of challenges, potential risks, and to mitigate them and to cope with them, the joint work is required. And first of all, and first and foremost, contact for you is your project officer of the granting authority, just to also understand and find out the key solutions. In case there is the specific assistance or help would be needed to the granting authority also from our side, they will definitely contact us for the local context specifics. But in any case, your project officer and your coordinator, first of all, if you are not a coordinating university, then must be informed at the very early stage, not like the later when the things happen, but actually try to find out where and how to mitigate them. Just also maybe the latest maybe latest comment about visa for students and for staff. If there is still no passport, no biometrical passport, our office provides the support letter, which we communicated and negotiated with the embassies, that based on the letter from the National Erasmus Plus office, they considered to issue the visas free of charge for the students, for example, and also for the staff in certain cases, and also that they also provide the priority of the request consideration. So just do not forget to communicate also to students such opportunity and also provide us these details. You know that you have this information. Actually, Ukrainian partners have this information, so they can communicate to international partners. But please have this opportunity also be aware of. And actually, we are all working on the strong let's call it as the change agents in Ukraine. Like Erasmus community has been already the strong influence and impact, starting from 1994 when there was the first Tempus project funded for Ukraine very first 4 projects funded. And now we have already 30 years of the history of long-term cooperation with different partners, and starting from youth actions, then the new action in sports joined in 2014. Then also there was opening of Erasmus Mundus, Jean Monnet, and other things. So thus we have already the strong impacts of the Erasmus generation, Tempus and Erasmus generation in Ukraine, who are the brave defenders of Ukraine, defenders of common values. And we really are thankful to them for today, for every minute. So when we can, and when we are actually can work together again, covering important frontline in education and youth and sport, and making them also feel that there is a strong work done at the level of education, youth and sports that would contribute to the young generation, the generation of Euro integrators, the strong cooperation leaders who having working and acting as ambassadors of Ukraine, ambassadors of Europe, ambassadors of Erasmus Plus. And at the end, we are really looking forward to welcome all our Erasmus Plus partners, international partners in Ukraine, and to have our normal Erasmus Plus project activities one day after our victory. And also let me refer back to our Ukrainian resilient partners who are implementing the everyday work in education, in youth and sport, developing and developing the talents of our students, of our youth, of our young generation. And of course, with the support of our international partners, and specifically thanks to the European Commission for the trust, for the support and care and solidarity, and all DG services and the European Education and Culture Executive Agency and national agencies who continue their work, care and support. Thanks a lot to all. Slava Ukraini, and please stay safe. Yes, Rolf, you are welcome. If you want to make comments.
I would like to close the event saying a great thanks to you for organizing. Very interesting presentations. I was missing a little on the vet sector, but you will have a new opportunity to do that. You had a perfect session before Christmas, and I think it's something to move on with later on. So thank you, and thank you for all I've been sharing with you.
Thanks a lot. Yes, definitely. Actually, we have good feedback on the vet. We will do a little bit of elaboration also of some slides with a specific vet. In fact, we have the similar, let's call it, consequences of martial law to all education institutions. That is why we didn't put that as the separate part. But in fact, you are perfectly right that there are certain cases where we would specify a little bit more on the vet sector as well. And thanks a lot for work with the vet sector, which is currently extremely needs this internationalization boost, let's call it. That's extremely important too. Thanks a lot. And thanks for your comment. Okay, if any furthermore, maybe we will do some also group picture of colleagues who stayed as the let's call it like bravest and do it. And most resilient, staying like long also time with us today. And of course, just I'm ready to make the pictures, and I would ask also our colleagues, Oleg, will you share, will you do the print screen also in parallel? Will you do it?
Yeah, for sure.
Of the pages, we have here several one. Okay, so our love from our bottom of our hearts to all of you. And thanks a lot for everything you do for us. So if you have any other feelings, please, or just this feeling as well, please share. Thanks a lot. Okay. Okay. Sometimes, yeah. It just sometimes, like, you know, very fast disappearing of some people, and I cannot make the full picture of all. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah.
And
Great.
beside of extremely important information, thanks a lot for your amazing English. Just
You're very welcome. It's actually Horlivka Institute for Foreign Languages. I will do my alma mater promotion, let's call it. And my mother, she is the teacher from God, actually, in terms of English language. It's also the genes, as they call it, genomes. I don't know, but thanks a lot. Okay, good. So we have the pictures, I guess. And yeah, I here also can see my colleague Jana from our team joined the event. So Jana is our analytic manager and responsible also for work with the higher education reform experts and the vet sector as well. So just do not hesitate to contact her on this particular issues. And Oleg is our administrative manager, so I don't see him. And I don't see other colleagues, maybe Peter, just no, I don't see any other colleagues from our team. But also thanks to our team for the work and also for the preparation of this event. And see you then next time in Ukraine, online, blended, in Europe, in other parts of the world. We have a fantastic Erasmus Plus community all over the world. And you're all doing a very good job. Thanks a lot for your support, care, and solidarity. Have a safe evening and stay safe.